Welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host Jordan Ron on ESPN, ESPN.com. Giants reporter. We're here with the mid-OTAs episode. We're going to break down what we saw at OTAs for the second week in a row. On this episode, I'm also going to do a QB pick'em. I think you'll be interested. Basically, I'm going to strip anything distinguishable about the four quarterbacks on the Giants roster. Pretend like they had no numbers. Nothing where you could tell what their name was and who they were. And if you just watch them in regards to physical talent, throwing ability, and physical skills, how you would rate them, I think you'd find that interesting because it's almost, I won't give it away. And then we'll do a quick Jordan on a beat. I do want to address something here first. So I know for those watching on YouTube now, the reactions are, that introduction, that's startling. And I get it. It's not ideal for YouTube or video, but it's the way that we've been starting the podcast now for years. Like, that's my calling card. That's my thing. Chris Mad Dog Russo, I grew up on WFN, and good afternoon, everybody. Right? Like, that was his thing. Well, my thing has been, welcome everyone to Breaking Big Blue. I'm your host Jordan Ron on ESPN. I get it. It's startling for video, but I don't think I should change it up. Maybe you think differently. So give me a little feedback on that. You think maybe I should change it up, or should I stick with it because that's kind of my thing here on Breaking Big Blue. So I'm kind of torn on which direction to go with that. But I think the number one observation that I came away from the OTA was, it's a reminder, right? This week's OTAs. It's a reminder that Russell Wilson is significantly ahead of a rookie like Jaxson Dart. And that's fine. That's expected. And you're talking about a Super Bowl winning quarterback. A guy who has played as a starter. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL now for about a dozen years or whatever it is at this point. Like, being ahead of a rookie who just got drafted, who a lot of people thought could use some time anyway and would probably benefit from spending this year on the bench. And so, yes, Russell Wilson looks significantly better at practice than Jaxson Dart did. Jaxson Dart threw a pair of interceptions, had a couple batted balls. It wasn't the best day for him. You can see still the skills, the ability to move, some of the things he does. But Russell Wilson also has strengths. And, right, we're not talking about full 11v11 with contact where, it makes it harder for him to see over the line and the pressure can hit him. Then it might be a different story. But we saw a really good version of Russell Wilson on Thursday. It was one particular play stood out to me is, I think it might even been a bad snap, but the way he just caught the ball, the pocket was a little muddy. He threw from kind of an awkward type angle, and he just fired a dart deep down the sideline to Darius Slayton, probably a touchdown. Great play, great throw. And that's really what you've seen from Russ early, is those splash throws. He still has them in him. We saw that last year in Pittsburgh. He still has some splash throws. Now, he's not Russell Wilson in his prime in regard to the athleticism and the player he once was. But that's what he does at this point of his career. It's why he's still a starting quarterback. And he's clearly the Giants' number one. We went over that last week. And he's going to start this season. Now, it was interesting that Jaxson Dart got second. All Russ's snaps, first of all, are for the first team snaps. They view him as a leader. You talk to guys, they say, I asked Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, if he thought Russell Wilson has already established himself as the leader on the team. And his answer was definitely. You could see it. The way he organized guys for throwing sessions. In San Diego, he did it with Greg Dulcich, Daniel Bellinger. He did it in LA with Jalen Hyde. He did it in Atlanta with Robinson, Theo Johnson, and Darius Slayton. He organized a team dinner earlier this week, actually not a team dinner, but a dinner with the offensive line and the running backs. They're doing something with the wide receivers as well. So he's that guy that they look to. He is the 2 Super Bowls. He's the ones working with the first team. He's going to be the starting quarterback. There's no doubt about that. Jaxson Dart, though, after last week when we were at practice taking mostly 3 third-team reps, took mostly second-team reps. Now, I don't think that means he's ahead of Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston still took some second-team reps. Jaxson Dart snuck in some first-team reps. Jameis snuck in some first-team reps as well. This is just the rotation that I believe, and we'll find out more as we go along here by seeing more, but I believe this is just going to be what the quarterback rotation is. And so Dart, the one interception was him on the move, making a throw that he probably shouldn't have made. The other one, I believe it was a deep ball. Not positive off the top of my head. My notes weren't the best. You're kind of all over the place, and you're kind of blocked. I think that's what it was. But still, wasn't the best day for me. Does throw, and it is interesting, and something we should probably keep an eye on, is that he does seem to throw from the side a little bit and down low. So he had a couple balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. They've been throwing a lot of screens with him, really kind of stuff that they did at Ole Miss. But that'll be interesting to see if that's something that becomes a problem at the NFL level with balls getting batted down. I don't think it will, because we've seen quarterbacks throw from the side. As long as you learn angles and learn where you could throw and when you can't, you'll be fine. But it might be something that Jaxson Dart needs to keep an eye on early in his career. So, aside from that, some other things that stood out to me. Evan Neal. We talked about him at guard last week, left guard. That was the spot that he was in. He was with the first team at left guard this week. Now, does that mean Evan Neal is going to start, have a real chance to compete to start? Maybe down the line, but I wouldn't make too much of this at this point. But it does mean that, look, they're going to take a serious look at him at that position. Now, John Runyon Jr. and Greg Van Roten didn't participate in team drills today. So that, to me, is the primary reason Evan Neal was with the first team. But the fact that he's in that second mix already is notable. Giants, Jalen Hyatt, too. Let's talk about Jalen Hyatt for a second. Because I'm a big believer that Jalen Hyatt should be able to contribute. I've seen enough, I feel like, his rookie year, at practices over the years, and I know he might not be a perfect receiver. He might have his flaws. He might not be the most physical. His routes still probably, they look a little better, but they needed work. The physicality was a thing. But nobody can convince me otherwise. Jalen Hyatt is a guy who could play in this league, and he should have been a contributor last year. You should be getting 7 for 62 out of Jalen Hyatt in a season, not a game, a season. He's too talented. He's too talented. And you're seeing it this spring so far. At least we've been there. It's only 2 practices. I get it. Very limited sample size here. But Jalen Hyatt is heavily in the mix. That we know. Now, what happens is the question when Malik Neighbors comes back, because he's still not practicing. So right now, the 2 starting outside receivers are Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton, by the way, looks really good. He looks like he's Russell Wilson's go-to guy. Obviously, that probably changes when Malik Neighbors comes back. But then where does that leave Jalen Hyatt? Giants have to make sure to find a role for this guy. Caught a tough ball over the middle. I believe it was a slant early in practice. Targeted him deep. They made a couple plays early. And that's 2 practices in a row. You see, and we see highlights. Jalen Hyatt's part of the mix. Working with Russell Wilson, working with the first team. And Russell Wilson seems bullish on the fact that Jalen Hyatt's going to have a big year here. Now he's bullish on it. He says everyone's going to have a big year and be a superstar. And obviously that's not happening. But he does seem especially bullish on Jalen Hyatt. Now, players who didn't practice, we got Malik Neighbors, who I mentioned, Bobby Okereke, we didn't see there. Dexter Lawrence isn't running in any team drills. John Runyon Jr., Greg Van Roten, they weren't in team drills. These were with Deonte Banks. So those were the notable ones for me at practice. And one of the other things is, and I asked defensive coordinator Shane Bowen about this, is a turnover chest. Giants have a turnover chest. It's basically like, the Miami Hurricanes, they have the turnover chain. This is the Giants' version of the turnover chain. They have a turnover chest. Shane Bowen, defensive coordinator, explained the turnover chest. He got the idea. His son plays T-ball first year. He's the Pirates. So, aggressive, physical takeaways. And that's a big focus for the Giants. I believe they only had 14 all of last year. And I hear it from Shane Bowen. You hear him talking. One of the big emphasis, the thing that he's sitting there. And because I asked him, I said, you went back and looked at the film. What do you come away thinking? And one of that of needing more turnovers seemed to be like the number one thing for Shane Bowen in this defense this year. So now they have a turnover chest. They got a couple 3 today. Russell Wilson actually threw an interception. Remember, he had a good day. What I said, 12 of 18 passing. He threw an interception. Dane Belton was the one who intercepted Russell Wilson. Dane Belton's been making plays. We saw him make a pick last week when we were there. Saw him. I heard he had one yesterday at practice. So Dane Belton is having one of the strongest springs. And again, Shane Bowen, when he was talking about guys that are going to contribute, he brought up Dane Belton's name. He's going to be that nickel safety, that third safety. That he's going to be part of the mix. So don't count out Dane Belton just yet. I know they have Javon Holland. They signed Javon Holland as a free agent. I know they have Tyler Nubin drafted in the second round last year. Both look like quality players. They're still going to use 3 safeties. And Dane Belton, who's been really good this spring, the 2 practices that we've seen, from people that I've talked to, Dane Belton's been really good throughout the whole spring. And we've seen it throughout flashes from him throughout the first 3 years of his career. So I think Dane Belton is part of their plan here. I really do. I really do. Shane Bowen, we'll finish on this. One of the other things he talked about was finding there's 2 spots for 3 guys at the edge spot. We're talking about Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, right? They were there last year. And then they draft, always want to keep saying Michael Parsons. Abdul Carter. Because I know they're similar prospects, similar talents. I keep wanting to say Michael Parsons. I'll have to get used to this. Abdul Carter. And then when you listen to Shane Bowen talk, one of the things he knows that he's going to have to do, and he's going to have to find ways, and they're going to be on the field together, is all 3 of those guys. Is finding a way to integrate Abdul Carter, who, by the way, made a really good play early in practice. Quarterback was running, scrambling out wide. Abdul Carter read it, ran with him. Would have been a sack, loss, whatever it is. And you saw him, use that power to get in the backfield at times. Like Kayvon Thibodeau, also in the backfield plenty. Brian Burns, dominating off the edge during practice. Now, no pads. It's mostly passing camp. I get it. But those guys are going to be a force, especially with Dexter Lawrence in the middle. And it's Shane Bowen's job, and he knows this. He admitted this. It's his job to find a way to utilize all those guys. And one of the ways, and he said this is going to be a possibility, and we knew this kind of because it's something that Abdul Carter did at Penn State. He was an off-ball linebacker the first 2 years. Is play off the ball in other different spots. Brian Burns talked about it. Being used, deployed in different areas, different roles on third down pass rush packages. That's what I would expect from the Giants this year. And you'll see, all right, base downs. Let's say 10% of the time Brian Burns gets a rest. 10% of the time Kayvon Thibodeau gets a rest. So now base packages, Abdul Carter's getting 20% of the snaps right there. Right? And then you go to pass rush packages, you give him 100%. Now you're talking, okay, now you're talking a guy playing 40 snaps a game possibly. Which is a good number. All 3 of those guys end up playing 40, 50 snaps a game. You're in good shape. Like that's what Shane Bowen has to figure out. What's the best way to use these guys? And Abdul Carter's versatility is definitely going to help in that regard. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, you want to listen to the rest of this podcast, we're going to cut it off here. So go to your podcast platforms. Audio version is going to be available, full podcast, Breaking Big Blue. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to get to the QB Pick'em. That's what's up next. On to the next one.